What's up, everybody? Welcome inside the League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Another weekend and another just overall disappointing performance from North America as a region. They continue to look like, by far, the weakest major region so far in 2019.
I think as a whole, it's looked like the weakest major region. I think when you look towards maybe the top 3 or so, you start to feel a little bit better and maybe think, hey, even the top 2 guys, you'll think, okay, I can be confident in maybe a respectable international showing here. But yeah, that was a rough weekend of LCS if you were hoping to see a overall quality in North America.
There's clearly 2 different leagues going on within the league in the top 3 and the rest of the LCS. But luckily, we had at least one game where both teams had some highlights and played well. And of course, it was C9 versus TSM, 2/3 of that actual top 3. And TSM had everything going for them. They had a fantastic start. Their early game the entire year has been pretty solid. They drafted an absolutely disgusting poke comp with the Nico in the top lane. First one of 2019, of course. And they were looking great. Everything was looking perfect.
And we were talking about this. Man, there's a play in this game where Sven basically gets hit by one Sleepy Trouble bubble, and then he gets absolutely...
It's not even the bubble. It's just the paddles.
100-0. Man doesn't have any type of chance. Yeah, he
dodges the bubble.
And it's like, okay, you're fine.
Okay, I should probably out.
Wait a minute.
2 abilities.
Yeah, so
2 abilities. That's
you got to be really fast on it there. But in this one, yes, TSM had the amazing early game. But right there, Bjergsen gets caught going a little bit too far forward without the flash. And at this point in the game, given the damage that C9 can dish out and the time of the death timers, that is a crucial mistake. Cost TSM and gives Cloud9 the victory that TSM had earned for themselves.
Yeah, and Licorice and Niski were kind of invisible for the majority of the game. They were getting outclassed, and then 2 team fights to fight before that as well. They pop off, they burn Bjergsen's flash first off in one of the fights, and then, yeah, he jumps a little too far forward with the Zoe ulti. They take him down, and one fight from their own base. TSM had Baron at that point, too, and Cloud9 just closes it out in a 4-for-1. Acadian left to just watch on the Gragas.
There's still some issues with Team Solo mid towards the mid and late game. We had talked about that in previous weeks, and we had talked about their progression and progress that we had been seeing them make in those areas as well. It seems like there still is some work to be done, and this is a little bit of a switch up here from what people have been expecting out of TSM the last year or two. Of course, with the double lift roster, you had expected and known that if TSM got to late game, that is where the strength was. They would always win at that late game point. That wasn't the case last year. We did see some issues come up with that new roster, and then, hey, heading into the roster of this year, you are still seeing some mid to late game issues that you can't entirely trust TSM on autopilot at that point.
But there's still a lot of positives to take from that game if you're a part of TSM. I like that they're trying to draft a different comp. Obviously, Nico's something we haven't seen at all in the LCS. Even Varus isn't being picked very often. So this is still clearly the 3rd best team in North America. They had a legit shot at taking down Cloud9. So not nearly as many concerns with TSM so far as we had in 2018.
No, but I think that if you are looking at this weekend as a whole, you would like to see next weekend be a lot better from Team Solo mid, given that the game against Echo Fox was anything but clean. And then again here, having an amazing early game, but unable to close against Cloud9.
But they're still outside of that top 2, but clearly the 3rd best team. The rest of NA at the bottom of the standings. Ooh, those were some of the best matchups. You had all the bottom feeders going head-to-head. Echo Fox, Clutch, 100 Thieves against Clutch. And it's hard to pick who the worst team in North America is right now. In 2018, there was usually, it's the Golden Guardians. This year, it's definitely not them. I feel like it's got to be between 100 Thieves, Clutch, and maybe Echo Fox now. But it might be 100 Thieves, Mark. Our preseason number 2 team might be the worst team in NA right now.
And hey, everyone is wrong on this one. Everyone thought that this roster would have some more pop to them, would find ways to get it together, to get that, synergy that you want to be having on the LCS stage, that cohesion that you need to have, making the right calls all together and playing it. You listen to these comms, you watch some of these dives that these guys are taking. It is not coordinated. The communication is not good on this roster. And a lot of times you're watching these games and it almost seems like 100 Thieves is just waiting to lose. They're waiting for something to go wrong.
Exactly what they did against the Guardians.
And for the other team to make the winning play. And that is not, absolutely not the way an elite level League of Legends team should be playing, and that is absolutely the expectation that is deserved of this roster with 100 Thieves, and they're not meeting it.
That performance against the Guardians was shocking. They just gave up a Baron, gave up an Elder, gave up 3 inhibs, then decided, all right, guys, let's fight. Oh, well, we're down 2 buffs and 3 inhibs. I can't believe we lost that game. So they've been incredibly disappointing. Clutch actually had a pretty decent week. They blew a lead against 100 Thieves, which it's just a mess down in the bottom 3, we'll say that. There are 3 bottom 3 teams for sure. And even ahead of that, if you're talking about playoffs and looking ahead to that, right now, there are not 6 teams in NA that are playoff level or playoff caliber ready, because even someone like FlyQuest, who have been in the top 3 in our power rankings, they've looked like they've been solid at times. Now they've lost 4 games in a row. I still think this roster will reach playoff caliber levels, but outside of that, you're not going to have 6 teams that are that great.
And that leaves you with 4, right? That leaves you 4, and that leaves you basically expecting, even in then, if you want to be as a big optimist here, you'd be going, hey, maybe Optic Gaming can be considered a playoff caliber level team here this year.
Crown and Arrow did look good in this game.
And they've been getting there, but they're not, I wouldn't call them playoff caliber at this point yet of what I've been wanting to see. And I think that goes the same here given this past weekend of FlyQuest. But you do know the potential of what we've seen from those squads. But it gets to the point of it here where you have 4, maybe 5 if you're being generous, playoff caliber teams here in North America. The depth towards the top is just not there right now. And I think that this is an issue that does need to be addressed if you want to talk about, the competitiveness of this as a major region.
With C9 and Liquid just beating up on everybody, you might have 3 sub 500 teams in the playoffs, which is a little bit disgusting. Despite some of the messy games, there were some standout performers in Week 6, and as is basically a staple on our OP5, you got to have the bot lane for Liquid. They continue to completely dominate, even though in a lot of these fights, they didn't really have to do anything. They still completely take over when it comes to the laning phase. But I want to shout out Huni, because he actually had a great week on his patented Cassiopeia. And even the Karma against 100 Thieves, they were up almost 10K, 8-0. He had 2 great laning performances.
Hey, and this is certainly someone who deserves this type of recognition here in the OP5. Finally, again, this is someone who Huni has had probably the worst start to a split in his career ever in his life here. So getting this type of bounce back performance, getting these type of performances that look like the Huni of old, where you're starting to see him carry and be that guy that Clutch Gaming needs him to be a competitive team here in North America. It was great to watch Huni pop off.
And Froggen also had a solid week, even in their loss to Cloud9. He was doing his very best on the LeBlanc to try and keep the Guardians in that match. And at 5-7, they're right in the thick of the playoff hunt, which again, is a little disappointing if you're a big fan of competitiveness here in North America. Coming up after the break, the playoff hunt for Fnatic and Origin gets a little bit easier after Week 7 as they both put up some fantastic performances. Welcome back, you beautiful people, to League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you guys, and recapping some LEC action from the weekend. Mark, G2 lost another game. Blow it up, they're in trouble. They're probably not even going to make playoffs. They already clinched playoffs. They're already in there. No, the actual loss to SK Gaming is not a concern. Doesn't matter at all. They're second of the split. Won't affect them, but it's how they lose that game, and we've seen G2 throughout the entire split. They play extremely aggressively, extremely disrespectfully, because they've been completely styling on everyone in Europe. So if this playstyle continues into playoffs, then it might be a legitimate concern, because I don't know if they'll be able to just flip a switch and kind of play more calculated, because they just haven't been tested whatsoever.
This is the type of talk that happens when you have a team here in one of these Western major regions that does dominate on this level. And it reminds me a lot of the times of TSM in 2016, that summer split, where basically trying to go perfect there. And this is what it seemed like, what it was going to be like for G2, of course, now with these 2 losses. But the loss here to SK Gaming, this most recent one, does cause some cause for concern here, given that, yeah, G2 was just absolutely smashing. And what it looked like, again, was that one of those type of moments that you have in solo queue where you're like, I'm doing really well, and my score's good. But
I'm going to get this game to end. I want more kills.
I'm going to get an A. I want an S. I need to get my last Mastery 7 token. This is going to be great here. And then all of a sudden, whoopsie, you throw 1 or 2 deaths their ways. They get the bounties picked up. You get the death timer times going higher as you get longer, and you throw the game there. And that is exactly what happened there in this matchup. And yes, dropping 1 loss here isn't the major concern for G2 whatsoever. Major concern has to be moving forward and getting towards the playoffs. You haven't really had a stiff, tough competition test, one that's really pushed you in a match to go the distance here. And I think as far as a practice way, you can't mimic that in scrims, and you need to get it in stage.
I think if it was the old playoff format, you might have a legitimate concern about this, but now because you kind of have some leeway, if they even drop a best of 5 in the playoffs, they're going to that semi-losers bracket and they have another chance at redemption, and you know they'd be refueled and fired up. So I don't think it's a legitimate concern, but they should definitely fix some of these issues, and a loss like this will probably help them do that. It is a mess in the middle of the standings in the LEC. It was before this week. It is after this week. It will continue to be for the last 2 weeks. You got 4 teams at 7-7. Misfits, SK after their win against G2. Fnatic has won 4 in a row, and Schalke has fallen off the face of the earth. I don't know what happened to this team. They were top 10 in the world on our global rankings, and now they're barely top 10 in EU.
Upset and Ignar, I think that's where, for me at least, the major thing. I want to see that bot lane have better results here. They need to be a major point for Schalke if they're going to be finding their way back into the win column. And I think, again, then you can also, for the exact same thing, you can say, well, I want to look at the top 3 players there as well on that squad, because they need to get better at communicating and working themselves around the map as far as getting Schalke back on track. But when you're looking at the rest of the teams in kind of this pack here, this clump towards the middle top here of the LEC, I think you have to be looking at the likes of a Misfits or a Fnatic to be making that type of push here for the playoffs.
I think Fnatic, you're pretty much guaranteed. They're getting in playoffs for sure. 4 in a row. They look like they're finding their old form. Misfits, I still got a lot of questions. This game against XL was hardly a confidence boost, although I will say XL looked a whole lot better this week, and they were 1 team fight away from going 2-0 for the first time in their team's existence. But Misfits, I don't have confidence in. Schalke, I have 0 confidence in right now. So Fnatic is for sure. SK, I don't know. I'm not even positive about Splice at 8-6 making playoffs. I think Origin, Vitality, and Fnatic are the ones that have the most confidence in going for playoffs. And Vitality, they had a sub this week, so you know there were question marks about them because they did have a tough week against Misfits and Origin. But Saken in that mid lane, he performed, I mean, Jizuke has some hard shoes to fill, but he looked fantastic in his debut. Ooh. They got the win against Misfits. He's 1v2 in his rise. You can't even tell it's not Jizuke.
I was going to say, take away the nameplate. You might think it is the Italian stallion Jizuke there, but nope. Not happening. It's the sub, and this time Saken was getting his job done. And I thought, you know what, for all you could ask for a sub this week, I thought Saken did that and more for Vitality. Thought he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, and even in their loss to Origin, I mean, your LEC debut, you have to go against Febivin and Nukeduck. Not exactly the easiest matchup, so they have a great sub there, and I expect to see this guy. He should be on a starting roster sometime soon in the LEC, and now with 9 wins, Vitality are looking primed for a playoff run. The standout performers from Week 7, it's more Fnatic. Last week we were praising the bottom lane in Reckless and Hillisang. This week we're going to the top side of the map because Bwipo, his KDA might not have been fantastic, but he was solo killing and hard carrying a lot of these fights. Look at the damage percentage for a top laner, north of 35% is insane.
It's been a rough year to start out here for Bwipo. We haven't seen the performances that we wanted. The communication hasn't been there with the team. It even hit a point where his girlfriend was looking at some stats on Fnatic and saw that someone had a 33% win rate on a champion, and she went, "Who is that? They suck." Well, feels bad, that was Bwipo. So Bwipo has had a real rough go here to start it out, but this week, got it rolling and had a fantastic performance, a huge reason why Fnatic was able to get the victories this weekend.
And we talked about XL being so close to going 2-0. Special in the mid lane, they've looked a lot better with him in there. Other compared to Exile, so he's going to be starting the rest of the split, I imagine, and probably even into the summer split. He's looked solid. And the bot lane for Origin, Patrick is living up to the hype. We knew that on an actual good team because he was the only bright spot on that terrible H2K squad in 2018. And with 4 vets around him, he is shining, and Mithy is there to guide him. And this is EU Mithy. This isn't TSM Mithy. He's back in form.
I was going to say, hey, even when you're looking at that summon like, oh man, Mithy just tags along and gets put up there with Upset. No. Yes, Upset does carry quite a lot of weight there with that team, but you got to give some props to Mithy this week. He was really good for them.
And the Origin bot lane just looks like actually probably one of the top 3 in EU right now, and they look like they're well on their way to playoffs. Coming up after the break, FunPlus Phoenix. Yes, they're for real, and they're taking the LPL by storm. Super carry doing B. Welcome back. It's League on Lock. Mark and Eric here with you guys. LCK action from the weekend. You had SKT versus Kingzone, 2 playoff hopefuls. SKT fresh off their 2-0 smackdown of Gen G, as pretty much everyone does. But this was a very clean series from SKT. They had some fantastic team fighting, and you really saw Khan and Clid really take over this set, as has been the theme for SKT so far in 2019.
I was going to say, that is the hype moment here for SKT. Again, people for the last year or so have been criticizing the likes of Khan in the top lane and talking about how he's not really performing up to the level of the hype that he'd been given before, and that is fair. It was not up to the level of hype from before, but you're starting to see it return here with SKT and getting these big-time carry performances from him, which you absolutely need to have at this point in the LCK to be able to have that threat in that top lane.
And I think people have forgotten that on Kingzone, Jace was just permabanned against him for almost an entire year because he would just completely take over games on that champion. Now there's a lot of players in the LCK that are known for that champion, but Khan was one of the first to completely dominate with it. And that second game against Kingzone, I mean, Kingzone got a turret. Other than that, they got perfect gamed, and SKT completely outclassed them in every way, shape, and form.
There's nothing left to say about that match there. It was just an absolute smackdown from SKT. And the important thing here is that this was the level of performance that you normally see from SKT against a Gen G, against a Jin Air. But this was against Kingzone, and Kingzone that had been doing well heading into this matchup here. So this is important, a good result here against a good level team here in the LCK, and a good strong showing from the SKT squad.
Yeah, it's really the first time they've actually stomped a team that's good in the LCK or fighting for the playoffs, not one of those bottom 3 to 4 squads. So things definitely looking bright for SKT. And when it comes to those final playoff spots, Kingzone and Hanwha, it's definitely going to come down to one of them for that 5th spot because Damwon has definitely been rising up. They seem like they're going to be a lock for one of these playoff spots. So who are you more confident in taking that final spot? Kingzone, who just got destroyed by SKT, but they also 2-0'd Hanwha earlier in the week.
I was going to say, if you asked me maybe a week ago, I probably would have said Hanwha. At that point, I thought that Hanwha was moving forward in all the right directions. There's a lot of positives that I've been seeing. I had been extremely impressed with the play of Tal this season. I thought that he has really stepped up from what we had seen from him before with SKT. So to see that, and then now to see the performances a week later here, and to see more continuation, I'm going to have to go with Kingzone. I think Kingzone right now is going to have enough in the tank to get into the playoffs here as that 5th spot team.
The main concern with Kingzone is it is very much the death show on this squad. I mean, he's right up there in MVP numbers with Chovy. He is the same number, 900, because if Kingzone wins, it's through Deft popping off on whatever champion, his patented Jinx, or even the Ezreal, pretty much anything, it's going through him. So if he has an off game, Kingzone is in trouble. That's the main thing to worry about with that squad. Stand-up performers from week 6 in the LCK. There was no Griffin, which means more people get the honor of being on our OP5 because Griffin just, they needed the break. And because of that, it's a lot of SKT members. They had a fantastic showing. We talked about Khan and Clid completely taking over some of these games. And Mata also had some game-winning flanks on the Alistair. And Along with them, you got Showmaker and Nuclear from Damwon.
This is kind of one of the weirdest type of LCK OP5s you could have, because not only do we not have any of the Griffin members up here, which has got to be weeks since that has happened, but you don't have Faker up here in a time where SKT is doing well. You know, maybe in the past you'd have a situation where Easy Hoon or something like that would end up taking the spot, but here it's Khan, Klid, and Mata getting in for SKT in the top 5, because these were the guys that absolutely were the main workhorses in their victories this week, and it was so fantastic to see Khan returning to form and smashing people in that top lane.
Yeah, SKT is still one of the best teams in the LCK right now, but you're not saying Faker's the best mid laner. You could even say maybe he's the 3rd best mid laner in Korea right now, which is kind of insane, especially when SKT is actually performing well. And by the way, their next match is against Griffin on March 8th.
Oh yeah, that's the big one. Get your popcorn ready. Get yourself seated anywhere you can. Sitting, standing, lying down, whatever position, you need to be watching this match.
Now, last time, it was quick. It was a quick 2-0 for Griffin. It didn't quite live up to the hype. They got completely destroyed, but SKT look a whole lot better than they did then, and Griffin's been off for a while, so maybe that will favor SK Telecom. Over to the LPL, FunPlus Phoenix. If you haven't been paying attention to China right now, you probably haven't heard of this squad, but they have made a statement now. They started 7-0, but people were saying, they haven't played anyone good in the LPL yet. Well, now they played the defending world champions in IG, and they stayed perfect on the season. They moved to 8-0. It was a great series, went to 3 games. IG had a convincing game 1, and FPX came back with the reverse sweep to stay perfect.
Some huge adaptations from the squad of FunPlus Phoenix in that one, given what happened in the first game of this series. And you're right, hey man, if you're not watching LPL action right now and you missed out on FunPlus Phoenix and IG, I feel sorry for you, because you're missing out on the best League of Legends going on right now. I love watching Griffin, I love watching the LCK, I love watching some G2. Nothing is stacking up right now to FunPlus Phoenix in the LPL. They are absolutely the team to watch this year. And hey, they've got my player to watch this year, doing some major work in that mid lane.
Doesn't matter what roster he's on, they all of a sudden become fantastic. I mean, FunPlus was middle of the pack at best in 2018. Obviously, a revamped roster here. And look how fired up this guy is when he takes down IG. You know he's passionate about the game, and that's one of the main reasons all these retirement rumors for him going over to streaming, I just couldn't believe it, because he's been so passionate about the competitive scene. And now, these guys are for real. Yes, they're taking on Top and RNG next, but what a way to start their toughest stretch of the season by taking down IG.
Hey, and all you guys, all you internet keyboard warriors out there coming after my boy Doing B for his physical appearance, saying the boy looks like fiddlesticks, get out of here. Man's ain't been in the gym, he's been on his computer practicing, and that's why he is the mid laner for FunPlus Phoenix, the best team right now in the LPL.
He's the king of the mental gym, because he's untiltable. You can't tilt super carry Doing B. Doesn't matter what he's playing in the mid lane. He's always playing crazy off meta stuff. You know, he started with that Kled mid. He's played a lot of Sion mid. I know tons of people have been playing that, but in NA, you have 2 maybe world-class teams. The entire top half of the LPL is world-class right now. That's all the time today for League Unlocked. Eric and Mark with you guys. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time.